Hey everyone, it's Mike Andes. You're listening to Business Bootcamp Podcast. Today, we're going to be taking a question that came in via email from a past questionnaire, someone that has already been on the show. Then we're going to dump into 3 customer experiences that I've had recently. Then we're going to talk about the books that I'm reading and how they can help you. So today's going to be a good show. I want to say thank you to today's sponsor, which is Gusto. If you haven't already, go to gusto.com/bootcamp. They have tripled the amount of time that they are going to give us a free trial. So you can go on their regular website, gusto.com, and figure out, I think it's 14 or 30, a 30-day trial for their software. But they're giving the listeners of Business Bootcamp Podcast 90 days, 3 months worth of a free trial. So all you need to do is do 2 things. Go to gusto.com/bootcamp, and then in the How Did You Hear About Us section, just put in Business Bootcamp Podcast. You'll get 3 months. And so as we, come into spring, people are ramping up their businesses and things like that, I highly encourage you to think about one thing. And that is your team is your greatest asset, and making it easy to pay them and to compensate them, and making it much more easy for them to book time off and do their payroll and get benefits. It's just a system that you can't afford not to have. It's extremely cheap after the trial, especially if you have a small business. It's just an absolute home run. It integrates with all the healthcare things that are going on and all that, so you're able to choose a healthcare option for your employees that is affordable and that is really just up to date and is actually current with all the things that are going on, as well as do payroll and direct deposits right into your employees' account. So check it out, gusto.com/bootcamp. I really appreciate their support for the podcast. We keep doing what we're doing here. So let's go ahead and jump into today's show. A quick update on what I've been up to. I've been traveling a lot. I was in Europe, then I was in Texas. I'm actually flying out tomorrow again down to Dallas. So kind of been a lot of traveling in and out, 24 hours here and then 24 hours there and back and forth. But looking forward to getting back into the swing of things come February with Augusta Lawn Care Services. We have 2 career fairs 2 weeks apart, and we start hiring and we start moving and grooving and getting the spring rolling. So really looking forward to that, kind of getting back into the grind of things. Winter has been great. Been a lot of progress on landscapebusinesscourse.com, working on completely revamping the site there. We've been working on our second shop location. It's ready to roll. Just a couple weeks it'll be opening up and really experience its first spring, which is our busy time, and really we'll be hitting it hard there. We've been implementing some really cool stuff into our marketing for Augusta, and I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun. So without any further delay, let's jump right into today's question. This question comes from Ben, and Ben is the owner of Dawnbreaker Farms. If you remember, he spoke to us last winter, and I'll let him tell his story here in this email. But dawnbreakerfarms.com, that's DAWNBREAK, that's dawnbreakerfarms.com. And so let's go ahead and jump into it. I will say this one thing to validate the fact that I actually check everyone's websites when they send this to me. On Ben's email, I don't mean to pick on you, Ben, but your signature, your Facebook link at the bottom, as it doesn't link to, it's a broken link. It doesn't link to your Facebook page, as well as the button that says support the farm by shopping on Amazon. It's also broken and just goes to Amazon.com. So I do check these things, and on your website, Ben, the Facebook button is also broken, that link. So just change the links out. It's proof that I actually do check when people send me pictures questions, even if I get them on my phone or if I'm 2 weeks behind, like I am almost right now. I do actually click on your guys' website, check it out, click around a little bit, try to get a feel of what's going on. So, not to pick on you, Ben, let's jump into your question here, and hopefully we can get some value on cash flow. So, Ben says, "Hi, Mike. This is Ben Grimes of Dawnbreaker Farms. We spoke last winter, and you offered me great advice that I should hit marketing hard and build my business brand awareness and equity. I've done that with incredible results. I am very thankful for the advice, as it has set the pace for my business. I was listening to a recent podcast where you mentioned doing listener calls again. I would be interested in the opportunity. One of my main business challenges has been cash flow. I have very high margins, and this is an excellent business. But the way the business is structured, I grow the product and then stick it in the freezer. I sell it back piece by piece over the next 6 to 8 months, not generating the entire profit until the entire animal is sold. The winter, while production is low, I'm developing ways to increase cash flow and would love the opportunity to hear your input on the subject. So I'm going to give my opinion on cash flow. Keep in mind, I'm not a farmer, and we did not have a chance to speak with Ben on the phone. All the other listener calls have been finished, and so the 10 or so, I think 10 or 12 folk that I was able to talk on the phone had an absolute blast doing that, and so we might do that again later on in the future. But Ben, thank you for listening in, and thank you for writing in to Business Bootcamp Podcast. And as always, everyone out there can email me. You can go on to businessbootcamppodcast.com, and I might not get to your question right away, but I do try to get to it. And so feel free to drop me a note. So Ben, this whole thing, and this is really just a Ben, this is everyone out there. It's really all comes down to one thing, and that's cash flow. And cash flow is super important. It's for small business owners, especially businesses that are seasonal. So the reason I know this is because landscaping is extremely seasonal. You are incredibly busy in the spring and fall. You're fairly busy in between that, and then the winter it slows down quite a bit. And not so much even just how busy we are, as much as types of projects. What type of projects? I mean, like, which ones are more profitable, things like that. And whether or not you have to discount to get those jobs in the winter thing, because there's more competition and there's less work out there for everyone else. So the question is, what do you do about cash flow? What do you do if you're in a seasonal business? What do you do when you have a product that, like Ben, takes 6 to 8 months to see in the entire profit? What can you do, and how do you manage that? So the worst way to do this, in my opinion, is to basically float it all via financing. So I see this far too often when companies like myself, I'm just going to use landscaping, but you can tailor this to your business, farming, whatever it is. The worst thing I see that is used by business owners is they take the seasonality of their company, they take the long sales cycle from the time that they have to sell, perform, and then collect on payments, or services or products, whatever it is. I look at that, and the way they do it is they usually finance it. And so I'm not saying that this is like you cannot do this. This is a viable way to get your business started and get it, help it during hard times. But when you are seasonal, or when you do have these long sales cycles to the time you actually get the money, what you don't want to be doing, if at all possible, is where in the slow season, for instance, like landscaping, in the winter, I see a lot of landscapers dipping into a $50,000, $100,000 line of credit from the bank. That's all fine and good. The problem is they don't get out of that debt until August, September of the next year. And so why do I think that's problematic? I think it's problematic because if you go to dip into that $50,000, $100,000 line of credit, whatever it is, and you max that out come June, and there's a big opportunity, but yet you are cash strapped because you haven't managed your cash flow effectively. And what makes it very, very difficult for us as landscapers, like a farmer, is during March, April, May, we're super, super busy. And it's also the time we're spending a lot of money. We're marketing, we are buying new equipment, we're hiring new people that have to be trained, so we're not as efficient. And so that is also the season that we're the most busy. It's also the season when the grass grows the fastest. So mowing takes a lot longer, so less efficient there. We don't make any money on that. Those 3 months there, March, April, May, approximately spring, a lot of landscapers have a lot of problems because they have depleted their cash reserves over the winter. And then come spring, they have a huge amount of output that they have to do as far as services. And so they up their hiring, they up the equipment, they up their overhead. And yet the problem is, if they do services in March and April, they might not get paid till May on those services. Or if they're lucky, maybe they get the month after, 30 days. A lot of times, if they are just collecting via check or cash, you might be looking at 2-3 months before you actually see the money in your bank account. And so what's hard about that is going through that season, that springtime, is the time when you got to be growing your business as a landscaper. And you all can tailor this to whatever industry you're in. But as a landscaper, you have to be growing during that season. So to not have cash to be hiring and getting new equipment, growing into new markets, expanding, getting trucks, whatever it is, as the company's really growing fast in those few months, can be very, very telling come the fall, when that's usually when you're seeing the harvest of all your labors for the past 6-8 months. And so, but those first 3 months, that spring season, if you were cash strapped, if you did have to go into debt over the winter to get past that seasonality of the business, you aren't able to attack when the times are good. And so when it comes to cash flow, obviously there's short-term ways of fixing cash flow. And when I say short-term, I mean the more obvious ways. That means basically collecting faster. So there's a few ways you can look at it. Number one is the fastest way to improve your collections and your cash flow is by collecting faster. So collecting the money either A, up front, or B, collecting it sooner after the service. So for some industries, people aren't going to pay you in advance. They aren't going to pay you to mow their lawn for the entire year up front, because they might cancel halfway through the year. They might sell their house. There might be a drought. So they rarely will do that. We do have customers that do want to pay for their service because they've been with us for a while or something like that. They'll pay the entire year up front. But it's very rare that people will do that. It's very rare for someone like Ben, a farmer, for someone to pay for an entire cow and then take 5 years to eat that whole cow. But yet to expect them to pay for that up front is going to be a difficult sell. There's lots of different industries that it's going to be hard to collect from people before you actually do the service. So the question becomes, how do you collect faster after the sale is completed? So we have a very, very detailed way that we do collections. I don't even like to call it collections, but we have a very set automated dates that things go out if they're overdue, etc. However, before it gets to overdue, I want to make sure we get paid, because we don't start sending overdue invoices until it's after 30 days. And so how do you get paid faster? Number one, you can keep someone's credit card on file. The biggest objection to this is I don't want to have to pay card processing fees. So card processing fees can range anywhere from 2 to 4% for taking someone's credit card, depending on if they're American Express or what type of payment method you use, as far as over the phone or online, or if it's encrypted, blah, blah, blah. And so there's so many different ways, but yet there is that 2 to 4% processing fee that that is taken into account, and you have to pay for that. That's 2 to 4% off of your gross revenue. So if you're doing 10% in revenue, 10% net margin, if your profit margin is 10% and you have to pay 4% in credit card processing fees, you are essentially giving up 40% of your profit. So I understand the logic behind not wanting people not wanting to pay processing fees. Now, let me take you a step back and think about the last time you went to a grocery store. That grocery store, usually their profit margins range around the 1 to 2% place. Like they're making 1 to 2% profit. Yet, when was the last time you went to a grocery store and they refused to take your credit card? I promise you it wasn't recent. Because when was the last time you had cash? When was the last time you actually paid for your groceries with cash? Now, the thing is, they are running an operation where basically their processing fees really are almost probably very close to their profit margin. Now, obviously, they do get a lot of discounts and things like that because of their volume, and they get workout deals, and I get it. They're not at 4% or even close to it. However, the bottom line is they are giving a huge percentage of their profit margin to make sure that the consumer is given the convenience of using their Visa, their MasterCard, their American Express, their Discover card, PayPal, whatever it is now, using their Apple Pay or Samsung Pay. So they're making sure this is the bottom line. You want to make it really easy for your customers to pay, whether that be storing a credit card on file, whether it be sending invoices via a link that they can quickly pay instead of having to send a check or to collect cash. Making the payment system and paying Making paying you easy is a really good way to make your cash flow problems decrease the fastest. That's the easiest way. Fastest fix is to get paid faster, and the fastest way to do that is make sure you have a credit card on file or you're taking some sort of automated payment. So a lot of people, they say, "Well, I don't want the 3 to 4%." Okay, that's fine. Maybe you have big transactions of $20,000 at a time, and they're coming big chunks. Okay, well, guess what? You can actually set up a service where you take ACH payments out, which is basically you get the checking account and the routing number of the bank account that you want to take money from. And you can basically, for a flat fee of usually under $1, you can make a massive a withdrawal and move funds around for literally pennies and much, much cheaper than credit card processing. So I don't like that excuse. It's very possible to do those transactions, those bigger ones, and get around the credit card processing and still have something that's automated. Still have something, there's plenty of software out there, whether it be Stripe or many of the other integrations that allow you to pay with ACH and get that a 55-60 cent fee to do a massive transaction. It's very appealing, and you're able to keep your cash flow. Basically, the day you perform services or sell a product, you're able to charge their card or charge their bank account. So that's a fast fix, okay? The bottom line is that's not always going to fix all your problems. And so the past, not this past year, but the year before, we worked on that kit where we really worked on making it easy for our customers to pay, allowing them to pay with PayPal, allowing them to pay with Stripe, allowing them to use credit cards, allowing them to do auto pay, allowing them to manually put their own credit card information in for auto pay so they wouldn't have to call the office, making sure it was all encrypted, making sure it was all backed up, making sure that we didn't have access to that information once they put it in their client portal. So that was all part of it. This past year, what we focused on is a little bit more of our soft systems. Our hard systems are, taking credit card, making sure we have it all encrypted, making sure it's all, safe for our clients, and that they feel that they can put their information on there. That's the hard systems, okay? The soft systems is how do you have a system around the entire process of collecting payment? This is talking about things like your email, your invoice. What's the verbiage say to make sure that your customers are paying on time? So I know I'm talking more about collections right now than cash flow, but collections is a massive part of cash flow. So how do we fix this problem? We, on our invoices, changed our payment terms. Our payment terms used to sound something along the lines of all payments are due within 30 days, 10% processing, $10 processing fee for overdue invoices will be incurred after the 30th day. So that's what it used to say, basically. And now it's changed to something along the lines of, we really appreciate if you would pay your invoice within 14 days. This is not the exact verbiage, but it's very similar to this. Something along the lines of, we really appreciate your business. We really appreciate if you pay your bill within 14 days so that we can pay our hardworking team and our suppliers that allow us to provide quality service. So that has a completely different spin. Now we bring the customer into the team, into our side of the court, and say they're a partner with us. They are allowing us to hire better people and make a better team and keep our suppliers happy, which in turn will then allow us to keep their service, making it all about the customer. Their service will be improved because they pay on time. And so we have seen a dramatic increase in the pace in which people are paying. We've seen a dramatic decrease in our accounts receivable, our AR, on our balance sheet. And so that's a very good sign, because we took a hard system of payment terms and made it a soft system of getting the person on our side, making this customer service. This is about customer experience too. It all ties into what our brand is about. However, I promise you, the verbiage in which we have put in our invoice has led to the greatest increase in cash flow, positive flow through our company. So that soft system, how do you make it on the invoices and all of that? Now, let's back up. We've been talking really about collections and how you collect money, because that's really the biggest part of cash flow for most small businesses. Now, we're going to talk about really changing your entire business model. I want to propose this idea that, when I thought about this a few years ago, really changed the way I look at business. And I want you to ask yourself, who is financing your company? Who is financing the growth of your company. And a lot of times people kind of look at me strange and they say, well, I'm paying for it. I'm the owner. I'm investing, or I'm putting my paycheck back in, or maybe I got a loan, or I'm investing and I'm paying for the growth of my company. Because obviously with growth, it takes a lot of cash. It takes investment. As the company grows, you get more stores, more staff, more products, a greater amount of responsibilities, bigger website, more sales, more and more and more. Well, that's all good. The problem is a lot of times cash flow gets kind of pushed to the side, and all of a sudden the business owner, are paying for the growth of the company. All that, the new stores, you're starting to pay for those, and the new hires, you're starting to pay for those. And I want you to ask yourself this question: how can you make your customers pay for the growth of your company? What do you mean by that? You might be saying, well, obviously they're paying the end product or invoice, and that's how I get paid, and that's how I run my business. Okay, but how are you financing? How are you financing your growth? Are you paying up for it up front and then hoping that customers come down the road and come to the store and buy products, and then you make up for it later on down the road? Or is there any way possible you could change your business model to where the customer pays before you offer the service, or before you offer the product, before you offer the service, before you go to their house and do whatever you do that you get paid for? Is there any way you can make them pay before? How can you make your customer fund and finance the growth of your business? How can you collect money for services rendered over the course of the entire year? How can you collect for services of the upcoming month? Like, who said you have to bill at the end of the month? Why not bill at the beginning of the month for services you're going to do that month? Why not have customers prepay or buy products or services up front? In other words, maybe you're a lawyer. Maybe you charge by time. Maybe you charge $300 an hour as a lawyer. Why not sell your time in packages of 20 so that people will have to come and pay $6,000, and in exchange for that $6,000, they will get 300 hours of your time. No, 200 hours of your time, since your billing rate is the $300 an hour. Is there any way you can you can package up your time or your services or your products and make people prepay before you deliver? So one way we do this for landscaping projects is obviously collecting 50% up front. A lot of times people are going to buck against paying 100% just because these are big bills. These aren't, $500 or $600. These are, thousands of dollars that people are paying, and they don't want to pay it all up front and then us walk away with it. I understand that, but I want 50%. And what's really cool about that is if I'm doing my job costing correctly, that 50% that they give me at the beginning of the job basically funds all of the expense of that job. It funds the salaries of the guys. It funds the product used in that job, the gravel, the soil, the mulch, whatever it is. It funds all of the resources that need to go into that job. And so that hopefully at the end of the job, they pay me another 50%. And that's all profit. That goes into the growth of the company. That goes into investing in new equipment. But the customer funded the operation. They funded from the get-go. I didn't have to take a loan out from myself. That's what you're doing if I did not get that 50% check at the beginning of the job, basically you are loaning yourself money on the behalf of someone else. You are paying for someone else's landscaping. In my case, I would be paying for someone else's landscaping until the end of the project. And that might be a month. That might be 2 months. If it's a big project, you might be looking at 90 days before you even see the money. And you have basically loaned yourself money. You have tied up capital in the business. How can you make the customer pay for that? If you're running a 50% margin, and that's your target for us, like us as landscapers, get that at the beginning. That's pretty standard. Pay for all your expenses, have them fund the operation, never have to take out, your cash flow would be immensely better. Because think about it, if I have 4 or 5 projects over the course of a month, and they're all, let's say $10,000 each. So we're looking at $50,000. If I collect at the beginning of that, I'm looking at $25,000 that I can use to pay my guys, get the materials for those 5 jobs, and do that. Now, let's say that I have $100,000 in the bank. Fantastic. Life is good. Spring starts, have to hire people, equipment comes in, getting really busy. Okay, now my cash is down to about 30 grand because I had to buy new equipment, a few trucks, and hire new people and all of that. But times are good. It's busy. I'm busy. You know, I'm selling more services and I'm hiring more people and I'm getting more equipment and we're getting bigger and we're getting more clients and everything's going good. My cash in the bank is 30 grand because I had to invest so much in. Now, all of a sudden, I sell these 5 jobs, and if something doesn't happen over the next 30 days, I'm going to be in a lot of trouble because I got to put out $25,000 worth of labor and materials. And if I don't get that money, I'm going to suck all the cash out of my bank before I even get paid that 50 grand. Like you say, well, we're making 50%. We're going to make $25,000 profit. Okay, that's fantastic. But what are you going to do after 2 weeks when you've started all 5 jobs, none of them are finished, and you don't have any money in your bank because you've sucked out $25,000 worth of labor and expenses into these jobs that you aren't going to get paid for another 2 or 3 weeks? So you got to think about cash flow and think about it in another term. If I would have asked for that $25,000 up front, I would have $55,000 in my bank account. And then I'd be starting the job, and then I'd be going back down to 30 because I'd use that over the labor and materials. But then when they pay me, I never went down to 5. I never went, and that's what makes people vulnerable. When they go down to $5, $4, $3,000 as a small business owner, and you're only making 15, 20,000 gross revenue, and all of a sudden you got $5,000 in the bank, that's when people start taking out credit card loans. That's when they start taking out these crazy loans that come in the mail that every single small business owner out there that has like 20% interest rates if you actually look at the numbers. And they start taking pay advances and they start taking second mortgages. That's when people start getting desperate. And if it could all be fixed, if they just thought about one thing. It's called cash flow. And think about it in 2 different ways. Hard systems, how do you collect faster? And then secondly, what's your soft systems? What are your soft systems of collecting payment before the job, as well as communicating with the client that fast payment is a key ingredient to working with them, and you need their support in order to fuel your team and your suppliers and make sure that you can provide the service that they want and the products that they want. So I think that's something to think about. And so I hope that helped, Ben. I know it wasn't super specific to exactly what you were talking about. I know it's going to be a little more difficult for you. But ask yourself the question, would you be able to get someone to pay for an entire cow, but then have that broken up over the course of a year in different types of meat? You don't have to make them pay for the same cow, right? So let's say you have a bunch of people that you give meat to. If you can make them have a subscription where they pay at the beginning of the year, say, I don't know what the prices are, but let's say if they give you $500 at the beginning of the year, you are going to give them 4 different times of the year, like every quarter, you're going to give them a big selection of meat. Now, what you can say is that $500 gets them an entire cow. And that's true. You just don't have to kill the same cow and freeze it and then give it every 3-4 months. You don't have to do that. What you can do is know the numbers as far as, okay, I got to give them so many pounds every 4 months. I can use that from different parts of the cow. I can use, when I kill another cow down the road at this time of the year, I will give them this part of the cow, this many pounds. It'll make up this package, whether it be sausages or hamburger or whatever your steaks, whatever you're making, and you're making this package. But have them pay for it up front, and you basically, or even if they give it half of it for the first half of the year, however you want to break this down. How can you, this is a question that goes back to the question that I'm trying to bring up here, is how can you make your customers finance the growth of your business? And it might require you to change your entire business model. But I promise you, it'll relieve you stress. It'll allow you to make clear decisions instead of having to think about the money in the bank being super low, but then crossing your fingers. This is the problem. When the money gets low in your bank and people are like, but if I can only get 2 more weeks, then I'm gonna get a big check in hopefully because I've done all this work from this client and hopefully they pay. Well, that's when that 2 weeks is when you make a lot of bad decisions and you make the high interest loans and you do risky things that you shouldn't do, or you don't have the money to invest in another big project that comes your way, or a new hire that comes that you really a prospective employee and you don't have the money to get them on board. Like, you got to think about these things. Cash flow is super, super, super important for small businesses. Okay, I'm going to jump through now. I hope that answer helped you at least a little bit there, Ben. I know it's tough as far as changing your business model for something like selling a cow months in advance and not having to sit in the freezer. Like, literally, if you could just pace out just the stuff that you do piece by piece over the next 6 to 8 months, like you're talking about how you sell back the cow or whatever you're selling, the meat back piece by piece. Can you break it up where they're getting certain pieces of the cow throughout the course of the year and they pay up front? Like, things like that. I'm not saying that's the way to do it, but thinking about how you can make the customer finance your business is super important. Now, I'm going to jump into 3 quick things that I have had happen to me in the past a couple weeks. About a month and a half, 2 months ago, I made an episode on customer experiences that I've had, and I talked about some personal experiences that I've had with brands and the positives and negatives of those experiences with regards to customer experience and customer service. And that was one of our most popular podcasts. And literally, it was me sitting down and thinking for about 5 seconds about some of the things I was happy and not happy about with brands I'd recently encountered with. And it completely blew up and like was one of our most popular episodes ever. So I wanted to just really quickly, not take a whole episode, but just fire a few things at you that have, customer service related, and getting you to think about customer service and I like customer experience. I like that word better than customer service. Anyways. Number 1, I was at a hotel in Dallas last month, or it was maybe 2 months ago. I've been to Dallas like 2 or 3 times in the past few weeks, but was at Dallas, and what was cool was there was this. It was a very standard hotel room that I was in, and when you get out of the bed, and if you're in one of those queen beds, and as usual, the bathroom's over next to the front door of the hotel. Well, they really thought things through because they had a motion detecting light that was underneath the nightstand of the room, and it was a motion detector that if you got out of bed at the night and your foot came down on the floor, a small LED light would turn on. It was motion activated. It worked great, and I didn't know it until that first night when I had to get up at about 4:00. And I put my foot out on the ground, and all of a sudden, a pitch black room that I was kind of worried about walking across, it was just enough light, just a low wattage, just on the ground, just to make sure I didn't trip over anything. Someone thought about that. And this is what I think customer experience is all about, is that one split second, right when I put my foot on the floor and that little light came on, the thought that I had that someone else was thinking about what I was going to do and my experience with their brand. Someone thought that through. Like, I talked about it before about like the AirPods that Apple sells, opening up the package, whether it be an iPhone or an iPad. They make it very deliberate that you cannot open that package up fast. You have to allow gravity to kind of like slowly open the box. That is customer experience. Someone thought about that. The dimensions of the box didn't just happen to be that way. They're all like that. And it's because they know that it builds up that few seconds of suspense. This little light was not a massive innovation. It was just someone thinking about what are the pain points of someone getting out of bed in the middle of the night, walking across a room they're not used of, that's pitch black. Obviously, probably lowers their liability for people not getting hurt. But it also proves that they were thinking about, and they got into the shoes of their customer and started thinking about what can we do to make the experience better. Get into the shoes of your customer and walk a day in the life of your customer. If you could just step outside of what you do every day as a business owner, and how you're managing your employees and managing payroll and doing cash flow and doing advertising, step into the shoes of your customer, live a day in the life of your customer, and then go to your business and start asking yourself, what is the experience that I am having? What is the relationship I have with this brand? And really start to think about that. We've started to think about the 2 different avatars or like potential employees that we cater to. Well, we cater to the professional that is very much about time, and is willing to pay a little bit more in order for us to be saving him more time and to be communicating online, and he or she can be paying with credit card, and we are fast about communication. That's one of our avatars. The other avatar is the person that is a snowbird. They're retired. They need to trust us to be able to take care of their property while they're out of town. Yes, there's people in between both of those avatars. That not every one of our clients is one or the other of those. However, it's a good way to start thinking, because now you can start thinking, okay, what is a snowbird? What are they going to value? They're going to value someone that they can trust when they're gone, when they're out of town. They're going to be trusting people that actually know how to take care of the landscaping and that can offer their advice and be able to do a range of services and check on their property during the winter. And there's going to be certifications and insurance. They want to make sure you're insured, so that if you break a pipe when they're on the other side of the country during the winter, that you're covered. So that's more important to them. Insurance. It's about them trusting you and feeling that you have the qualifications and the professionalism and the size of your company, things like that. For that other professional, that first avatar, that person's looking for speed of service. They're looking for efficiency. They're looking for being able to save them time and give them time to do their job. Whatever that is, their own business, whatever it is. That's our two avatars. We start thinking like our customer and then start reverse engineering how our customer is going to see our brand, interact with our brand, what's the relationship our customer is going to have with our brand, and how can we make that customer experience better. So that's a little light. When I hit that, that 1 second, it's that 1 second that your customer has the sense of feeling that, wow, someone thought about that. Someone actually thought about how to give me that packet of information, how to walk me through those documents. Someone actually took the time to put my name at the bottom and to put my address on there and handwrite a letter to me. This is customer experience. This is branding 101. Second one is in relation to a couple months ago. I mentioned one of the negative experiences I had with T-Mobile. Well, guess what? T-Mobile didn't stop billing me. They sent us another bill after twice or three times. I called and told them specifically, you got to refund me the bills. You need to, it was just horrible. So T-Mobile, essentially, we used as a mobile internet provider at our second shop. And this is months ago. And I had canceled. They kept charging. I asked for a refund. They would refund it. I asked them to cancel. They wouldn't cancel. Well, they said they would, but they didn't. And we kept getting bills. Okay, I had enough with it. I literally had to call them, and I sure hope it worked this time. But I called them. I said, I want you to lose my information. I don't want you to ever have anything to do with my name, my address. I just want you to erase me from your. I talked to the manager. I'm just like, I need to be out of your system. Do not call, whatever you want to call it, blacklist me, whatever it is. Just don't ever contact, because they kept billing us for hundreds and hundreds of dollars for these random services, and it's just this is ridiculous. And so, anyways, just don't do that to your customers. I don't even need to expound on the customer experience, but I will never be a T-Mobile customer again because of that experience, hands down. So, anyways, number 3. And by the way, let me say this. When I was on the phone at T-Mobile, they put me on hold without telling me what they were doing on hold. I was talking away, blah, 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 explaining the circumstances, and then she said, let me just put you on hold for a moment. I said, okay, that's no problem. Okay, a minute goes by. 2 minutes goes by. Okay, 3 minutes. Okay, now I put my AirPods in, put my thing on Bluetooth because I'm kind of annoyed. Start walking around doing other stuff. 5 minutes goes by. Okay, now I'm getting annoyed because, number one, the main reason here is what are you doing? You didn't tell me why I'm on hold. Number one, I don't know if I'm disconnected. Number two, I don't know if she just hung up on me and just doesn't want to talk to me because I'm a complaining customer that wants to be canceled. I don't know what's going on. If you're gonna put someone on hold, tell them what you're doing and give them some sort of an idea of how long you're gonna be. Are you gonna be a minute? Are you gonna be 10 minutes? Should you call back tomorrow? Don't just put them on hold indefinitely. And then number two, don't put them on hold without telling what you're going to do. There should be a reason why I'm going. If you got to talk to your manager, you got to look at some paperwork or you got to pull some files up. Tell the person before you put them on hold. Anyways, last thing, we went to a steakhouse. I took the managers out to a steakhouse in December, just to kind of go over the year and what we needed to be working on in each of our categories and our roles coming in 2018. And at this steakhouse, this is just a real quick one. It's simple, but I pick up on these little things. And that is when our waiter came to our table and asked, well, what would you like to drink? I immediately said water. The manager across from me said water. Yeah, and there was just two of us. The two of us had just sat down, and the other manager was still coming. And so two of us were there, and I said water. He said water, and within 2 seconds, literally from behind our waiter comes another waiter with a pitcher of water. Literally, they were already ready for it. Like, it wasn't as if he was already coming. He was waiting. Like, in retrospect, he was standing there listening behind his employee's back to see if we'd ask for water. Because if we did, he was going to be right there. And it was just another thing. Like, if we would have said Diet Coke or something else, he literally would have kept walking. And he would have gotten the diet and bring that. But they probably know. I don't know if they track this. But who knows? Probably like 50, 60% of people want water right off the get. They ask for that right first thing before they eat their meal and get, wine or whatever. We want to get a soft drink down the road. Like, that's later maybe. I don't know if it maybe 56% get water and that's why they do that. But all I know is that when I asked for water, they had a system in place. I don't know if they had some sort of secret communication from one waiter to the other. But when I asked for water, a waiter that did not hear me was pouring water in my glass within about 3 seconds. They had some sort of system. They had thought this through, and it was a high, a really nice restaurant, so you expect things like that. And there was other things that was great about the meal. The food was good and all of that. But I picked up on, I don't even know, I had some sort of salad, I think. I don't even remember exactly what I ate, but I remember the way they treated me, and I promise you that's what your customers will do too. They aren't going to necessarily remember your service or your product. I don't care how great you think it is. They're not going to remember that as much as how they felt when they interact with you, your people, and your brand. So think about that. All right, so those are those 3 things. I hope that kind of opens something up for you guys. Lastly, 3 different books that I've been reading over the past month or so. Number 1 is Talk Like Ted by Carmen Gallo. And it's basically, if you've heard of TED Talks, he dissects it, takes the 9 different principles that you can use for public speaking. Really good book. Crucial Conversations by Carrie Patterson. I really like that book about how to have crucial conversations when emotions are high, when things are on the line, whether it be an employee to a boss, a husband to a wife, whatever it is. When things are at stake, how to have those crucial conversations. Last one I have read that I thought was also really good was Work Rules. Tongue twister. Work Rules by Laszlo Bock. And basically it's an in-depth analysis of the way HR works at Google, how they think about hiring, how they think about customer satisfaction, employee satisfaction, how they think about employee compensation. Just a great book overall. Really, if you are into teams and people and leadership, highly recommended. So those are the ones I'm reading. So thank you all so much for listening. I don't say this enough, just how much I appreciate everyone listening. I appreciate Gusto for their sponsorship. I appreciate just so much that you all have done for me with this podcast and allowing me. You say, well, what have I done for you? Well, you allow me to do what I love, and that is help other entrepreneurs and help other small business owners. And I really do appreciate your listening, your time, your attention, your questions. As always, email me, businessbootcamppodcast@gmail.com or businessbootcamppodcast.com. You can submit a little form there and send your question on how to start, grow, or save your business. Again, until next time, this is Mike Andes. You listen to Business Bootcamp Podcast. And until next time, be great because nothing else pays.